The black sedan's tires crunched against the gravel driveway as Essie pressed her trembling hands against the tinted window. Through the glass she could see the mansion rising before her like a fortress, all sharp angles and cold stone illuminated by security lights that made the building glow an eerie white against the Seoul night sky. Her breath fogged the window, and she wiped it away with shaking fingers, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. "Get out," the driver said in accented English, his voice flat and emotionless. Essie didn't move. She couldn't. Her 18-year-old body felt frozen, every muscle locked in terror. Just 3 days ago, she'd been in Accra, laughing with her younger sister about university applications, helping her mother sell fabrics at the market. Now she was in South Korea, being delivered like a package to a man she'd never met. The car door opened from the outside, and a hand reached in. Not rough, but firm. Essie found herself pulled onto the driveway, her yellow Ankara dress bright and defiant against the monochrome landscape. The night air bit at her dark skin, so different from Ghana's warm embrace. "Walk," another voice commanded. She turned to see a woman in a sleek black suit, her Korean features sharp and unreadable. Behind her stood 4 men, all wearing identical dark suits, all watching Essie with eyes that revealed nothing. She wanted to run, but where would she go? She didn't speak Korean. She didn't know this city. Her passport had been taken at the airport. The mansion's front door opened before they reached it, and Essie stepped into a world of marble and crystal, of cold perfection that felt more like a museum than a home. Her worn sandals squeaked against the polished floor, the sound echoing in the vast entrance hall. A chandelier hung above her head, its crystals catching the light like tears frozen in time. "This way," the woman said, leading her down a corridor lined with doors. So many doors. Essie counted them as they walked, a nervous habit from childhood. 12 doors before they stopped at the 13th. The woman knocked twice, then opened it without waiting for a response. Inside, a man sat behind an enormous desk. Not the Mafia Boss. This man was older, his hair silver, wearing wire-rimmed glasses that caught the light from the desk lamp. A lawyer, Essie's mind supplied, though she didn't know how she knew. "Sit," he said in English, gesturing to a chair across from him. Essie's legs moved on their own, carrying her forward. She sat on the edge of the chair, her back straight, refusing to show how terrified she felt. Her mother's voice echoed in her head. "Hold your head high, Essie. We are descended from queens." The lawyer slid a document across the desk. Even upside down, Essie could see the header, "Marriage Contract." "No," she whispered, the word escaping before she could stop it. "No, there must be some mistake." "There is no mistake," the lawyer said, his voice devoid of sympathy. "Your signature is required by midnight. That gives you," he checked his watch, "approximately 15 minutes. "I don't understand." Essie's voice cracked. "Why me? I'm nobody. I'm just a girl from Accra. My family doesn't have money, we don't have connections, we don't—" "Your family has something far more valuable," the lawyer interrupted. "They have a debt." The word hung in the air like smoke. Debt. Essie thought of her father, dead these past 5 years. What debt could he have left behind that would lead to this? "I want to talk to my mother," she said, proud that her voice didn't shake. "I want to call her, now." The lawyer's expression didn't change. "Your mother is the one who sent you here." The words hit Essie like a physical blow. She gripped the arms of the chair, her knuckles turning lighter against her dark skin. "You're lying." 3 days ago, your mother received a message. The lawyer pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, then turned it to face her. "Would you like to read it?" Essie leaned forward, her eyes scanning the text. The message was short, brutal in its simplicity. "Give us your daughter, or lose everything. Every child, every home, every breath. Choose." "No," Essie breathed. "No, Mama wouldn't." "She chose to save your siblings," the lawyer said, pocketing his phone. "She chose to save herself. She chose to send you here instead of watching her entire family disappear. Tears burned behind Essie's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here. Not in front of these strangers who spoke of her life like it was a transaction. She stared at the contract, the Korean characters swimming before her eyes, meaningless symbols that would chain her to a man she'd never seen. "Who is he?" she asked quietly. "The man I'm supposed to marry?" "Hanjiwon," the lawyer replied, and something flickered across his face. Fear? Respect? The most powerful man in Seoul's underground. The most feared name in Korea's underworld. Essie's hands trembled as she picked up the pen the lawyer offered. The weight of it felt immense, like it was made of lead rather than plastic. "What if I refuse?" "Then your family dies." The lawyer's voice was matter-of-fact. "Your mother, your sister, your 2 brothers, they will be found in pieces scattered across Accra. That is not a threat, Miss Mensah. That is a promise." The pen tip touched the paper. Essie thought of her sister's laugh, bright and musical. She thought of her brothers, twins who'd just turned 12, who still believed the world was good. She thought of her mother's hands, calloused from work, gentle when they braided Isie's hair. She signed her name. Essie Abena Mensah. Each letter felt like a small death. The lawyer collected the contract with efficient movements, sliding it into a leather folder without ceremony. "You will be taken to your quarters now. The ceremony will be conducted tomorrow at noon." "Ceremony?" Essie's voice came out, hollow. "You mean there's going to be a wedding?" "A formality for legal purposes," the lawyer said, already standing, dismissing her. "The marriage is effective immediately, but Korean law requires documentation. You will comply." The woman in the black suit appeared at the door, as if summoned by invisible signals. She gestured for Essie to follow, and this time Essie's legs felt like they belonged to someone else as she walked back into the corridor. They climbed a grand staircase, the marble cold even through her sandals, past paintings that probably cost more than her family would earn in a lifetime. The woman stopped at a door on the 3rd floor and opened it. "Your room," she said simply. Essie stepped inside, and the door closed behind her with a soft click that sounded like a prison cell locking. The room was larger than her entire home in Accra. A massive bed dominated the space, covered in white silk that looked untouched. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the Seoul skyline, a galaxy of lights that should have been beautiful but felt alien and cold. Her single suitcase sat at the foot of the bed, looking pathetic and out of place. She walked to the window and pressed her forehead against the cool glass. Somewhere out there, across an ocean and a continent, her family was sleeping. Did they know what she'd sacrificed? Did her mother cry when she put Isie on that plane? Or had relief been stronger than grief? Sleep didn't come that night. Isie lay on top of the silk covers, still in her Ankara dress, watching the sky shift from black to gray to the pale blue of dawn. At some point, someone knocked and left a tray of food outside her door. She didn't touch it. Her stomach felt like it was filled with stones. The ceremony happened exactly as the lawyer promised. Noon, a small room. No flowers, no music, no celebration. Just papers and signatures, and a man in traditional Korean robes who spoke words Essie didn't understand. And Hanjiwon himself, standing beside her like a statue carved from ice. Essie had expected a monster. The stories about him had filled her sleepless night, whispered by the servants she'd overheard in the hallways. They said he'd killed his first man at 16. They said he controlled half of Seoul's underground economy. They said his enemies disappeared without trace, that he could order death with a single word. But the man standing beside her looked nothing like a monster. He was tall, yes, and his presence filled the room in a way that made everyone else seem smaller. His face was all sharp lines and angles, handsome in a severe way that matched the mansion's cold perfection. His black suit was impeccable, his hair styled with precision. He had to be at least 40, maybe older, though his face showed few lines. When he glanced at her during the ceremony, His eyes were dark and unreadable, revealing nothing. He didn't speak to her. Not once. Not even when the official declared them married. Not even when he was supposed to acknowledge his bride. He simply turned and walked out of the room, leaving Essie standing alone in her white dress, provided by the staff that morning, traditional Korean hanbok that felt foreign against her skin. "That's it?" she called after him, her voice echoing in the suddenly empty room. "You force me to marry you and you won't even look at me?" He paused at the doorway, his back still to her. For a moment, Essie thought he might respond. Instead, he continued walking, and the door closed behind him with that same soft, final click. The days that followed formed a strange pattern. Essie barely saw her husband. He left early each morning before dawn and returned late at night if he returned at all. The mansion operated like a machine around her, servants moving through rooms like ghosts, guards positioned at every entrance and exit. Everyone avoided eye contact with her. When she tried to speak to them, asking questions in her broken attempts at Korean learned from a phone app, they would bow politely and hurry away. She was a wife, but she lived like a prisoner. A comfortable prisoner, yes. Her meals were elaborate, her room was cleaned daily, anything she needed appeared as if by magic, but a prisoner nonetheless. The mansion's gates were locked. The guards watched her whenever she ventured into the gardens. Her phone had been taken. Her passport was somewhere she couldn't access. On the fifth day, Essie's curiosity overcame her fear. She began exploring the mansion properly, mapping its corridors in her mind. The East Wing was clearly Jiwon's domain. She could tell by the guards who stood outside certain doors, by the way servants hurried past with urgent expressions. The West Wing held offices where men in expensive suits came and went, speaking in rapid Korean, their faces hard with business that Issy knew was probably illegal. It was on one of these explorations that she found the room, a door slightly ajar on the second floor, in a corridor she hadn't ventured down before. No guards nearby. She could hear voices inside, speaking in English, rare in this house where Korean dominated. "The shipment from Busan was intercepted," a man's voice said, tense with barely controlled anger. "Someone tipped off the authorities." "Impossible," another voice replied. "Only 5 people knew the route." "Then one of those 5 is a traitor." Essie pressed herself against the wall beside the door, her heart racing. She shouldn't be listening to this. If they caught her. "What about the girl?" a third voice asked. "The African. Why did Jiwon really bring her here?" "Protection detail, apparently. Though from what, no one knows. The boss doesn't explain his decisions." "She's leverage," the first voice said flatly. "She has to be. Jiwon doesn't do anything without a reason. That girl is either a shield or a weapon, and we need to figure out which." Essie's breath caught in her throat. Shield or weapon? The words circled in her mind like vultures. Before she could process what she'd heard, footsteps approached from inside the room. She turned and fled down the corridor, her heart hammering, not stopping until she reached the safety of her room. She locked the door and leaned against it, trying to slow her breathing. Protection detail. From what? The lawyer had mentioned a debt, but what kind of debt required marriage to a mafia boss? And why would these men think she was leverage when she had nothing? Was nothing? That night, sleep eluded her again. She lay in the darkness, questions multiplying like weeds in her mind. At 2 in the morning, she heard footsteps in the hallway outside her room. They paused at her door. Essie held her breath, waiting. Then the footsteps continued, fading into silence. The next morning, driven by a desperate need for answers, Essie ventured into the East Wing. A guard tried to stop her, but she pushed past him. Her fear transformed into anger. She'd been brought here against her will, married to a stranger, kept prisoner in a golden cage. She deserved to know why. "Where is he?" she demanded in English, not caring who understood. "Where is Hanjiwon?" The guard reached for her arm, but a voice cut through the tension like a blade. "Let her through." Essie turned. Ji-won stood at the end of the hallway, still wearing his coat from outside, his face unreadable as always. He gestured toward an open door. "Come." She followed him into what appeared to be a study. Books lined the walls, and a desk sat near the window overlooking the gardens. Ji-won closed the door behind them and moved to pour himself a drink from a crystal decanter. He didn't offer her one. "You wanted to speak to me," he said, his English perfect but accented. "Speak." Essie's carefully prepared words evaporated. Standing before him, she felt the full weight of his presence. This man commanded empires built on fear. This man could end her life with a word. But she was already dead in every way that mattered, wasn't she? "Why did you marry me?" The question came out steadier than she felt. "I heard your men talking. They think I'm leverage. But leverage for what? My family has nothing. We are nothing to people like you." Ji-won took a slow sip of his drink, his dark eyes never leaving her face. "Your family has more than you know." "Stop speaking in riddles." Essie's voice rose despite herself. "I signed your contract. I married you. The least you can do is tell me why my life was destroyed." Something flickered across his face, almost like surprise. "You think your life was destroyed? What would you call it?" Essie's hands clenched into fists. "I was dragged from my home, forced to marry a stranger, kept prisoner in this mansion. I don't speak the language. I don't know anyone. I can't even call my mother to tell her I'm alive. So yes, I think my life was destroyed." Ji-won set down his glass with deliberate care. When he spoke, his voice was quieter, almost gentle. "Your life was in danger long before you came here, Essie Mensah. I did not destroy it. I saved it." "Saved it?" She laughed bitterly. "By threatening to kill my family if I didn't marry you?" "I never threatened your family." He moved to the window, his back to her. "That threat came from someone else, someone who has been hunting you for 3 years." The words hit her like ice water. "What are you talking about? No one is hunting me. I'm nobody." "Your father was not nobody." Ji-won turned to face her, and for the first time she saw something in his eyes. Not coldness, pain. "Kofi Mensah saved my life 12 years ago. I was 28, bleeding out in an alley in Lagos after a deal went wrong. Your father found me. He could have left me to die, should have left me to die. Instead, he took me to a doctor, stayed with me for 3 days while I recovered. Never asked for payment, never asked for anything." Essie's legs felt weak. She sank into the nearest chair. "My father knew you?" "He didn't know who I was. To him, I was just a man who needed help." Ji-won's jaw tightened. "Before he left, I asked him why. Why save a stranger? He said, because someone's child is dying, and I am a father. I could not live with myself if I walked away." He showed me a photo of his children. 4 of you, smiling at the camera. You were 6 years old." Tears burned in Essie's eyes. That sounded exactly like something her father would say. "I told him, if he ever needed anything, to contact me. I gave him a way to reach me." Ji-won pulled something from his desk drawer, a worn photograph. He handed it to Issy. Her hands shook as she took it. There she was, gap-toothed and grinning, standing with her siblings in front of their old house in Accra. Her father's handwriting on the back, "My greatest treasures." "3 years ago, your father used that contact," Ji-won continued. "He sent me a message, said his family was in danger, said men were watching his house, following his children. He asked for help. I sent my people to Ghana immediately, but by the time they arrived, he was dead." Essie's voice broke. "They said it was an accident. A car crash." "It was no accident." Ji-won's voice was hard now. "The men who killed him work for my enemies, a rival syndicate based in Beijing. They discovered that your father had helped me years ago. They decided to use his family as bait to draw me out." Essie stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. "You're lying. You have to be lying. Why would they wait 3 years after my father's death to come after us? Because they were waiting for the perfect time, waiting for you to turn 18, legal adulthood, easier to move you across borders, easier to use you. He moved closer, his presence overwhelming. 2 months ago, I received intelligence that they were preparing to make their move. The message to your mother was not from me. It was from them, forcing her to send you to Seoul. They planned to intercept you at the airport. That's Essie's story, but there's more to discover. Subscribe if you want to see what happens next and explore more incredible Afro-Korean tales.